to my most anticipated Spiel Essen games, 17 of which are on this list. And even though my main list on BGG had 91 titles, I couldn't fit them all in a video, so there's that. And then if there's a game in this video, or that's not in this video rather, that you are curious why it's not on the list, send me a message, because I researched lots and lots of games and I will happily tell you why I didn't put some stuff on the list. But let me tell you what I did put on the list and why I put it on that list. Number 17 is Nusfjord from Uwe Rosenberg. This is Uwe's slightly heavier release this year. He's also doing Indian Summer at Essen Spiel. No, Indian Summer is not on the list. But Nusfjord is a game that is kind of a similar weight as Glass Road. In it, you are running a fishing business in a little fishing town, and your opponents and you can purchase stock in your fishing business. The primary currency of the game is fish. There's like 100 fish meeples. So yeah, it's a lighter weight game about building out your little fishing business, and because it's Rosenberg, we're definitely interested. I don't know if we want another medium weight Rosenberg. We really like Feast and Caverna, and we're still working on playing through Feast, so it kind of makes sense that we have a more medium lightweight game this year from him, but because of that we weren't interested in an additional lighter weight game, which is what Indian Summer is. But if you're interested in Indian Summer, I did the English voiceover for Indian Summer, and you can watch that there. Maybe there. Number 16 is Iquazu by Michael Feldkotter, and it's coming from Haba. This is Haba's heavier title this year. Their previous titles of this weight class would be Maduris, which we absolutely love, and Adventureland, which was also really good. So we're interested in this game for primarily those reasons. It also has this really cool waterfall thing. So there's a waterfall, and the board is the waterfall, and the waterfall like slowly moves the opening in the waterfall, and you're trying to place gems and hide them in the waterfall of your color, and you'll get points based on location of the gems in comparisons to rows and columns and stuff throughout the game. There is a preview on BGG, which is a really good write-up, and yeah, you should go check that out for more information. It's also just really pretty, and I'm kind of hopeful for it. Also, this is the old city wall of Villingen. So yeah, we're in Carcassonne. We're not in Carcassonne, but that's how Steve described it to me. We're in one of the cities in Carcassonne, sort of, but not really in Carcassonne. That's in France. We're in Germany. Number 15 is Sakura by Maruno, and this is a like tableau collection building game where you're trying to place sakura trees in. There's 4 rows, and you place a sakura tree in the row, or you can pick up a set that is in a row, and you get points based on the sets and like when you pick them up. And we played this game with Suze up in Seattle, and we really enjoyed it, and so we pre-ordered a copy. We're interested and excited to get one, though I'm not too sure how it will play 2-player, so that's why it's a little lower on the list. But yeah, so it's an interesting game of where you have to pay attention to what you're putting into one of the 4 rows, because you could be setting up somebody else on their turn. So yeah, also I just wanted to point out that big steel structure is holding up those buildings, because when they build buildings like that close, they like all lean against each other, and so because they took away the building that was between that one and the half timber house, they had to put in big steel braces. So yeah. Up next is Iberian Rails by Tony Chen. Iberian Rails is a train game similar to like Chicago Express, where you are buying stocks of companies, and the majority of the stock company has CEO, and then the CEO can build trucks for the train companies, and you earn money and stuff like that. What sets it a little bit apart is the way that you do action selection at the beginning of the round, and there's like variable player powers. So it looks pretty interesting. It looks like a quick train stocky route building game where you're managing stocks, which interests us. And my only potential downside is that some people online say it's a little chaotic, which makes me a little concerned, but I'm hopeful because it supposedly plays really good 2-player and is more strategic and cutthroat, and some people online described it as like playing chess with trains. So yeah, Iberian Rails. Number 13 is Zooloretto Duel, designed by Michael, I forgot the last name, Schmidt, I think. This is a 2-player Zooloretto game. Steve and I really enjoy Zooloretto, Aquaretto, and Coloretto, and we enjoy Coloretto a lot 2-player, but we're hoping that Zooloretto Duel gives us more of a bigger game feeling than Coloretto, which is really good. I'm hoping that the box is also a small size form factor so that it works really well as a travel game, because we do really like the way Zooloretto plays, which, if you didn't know, there's like carts of animals, and you on your turn either take a cart that has animals in it, or you draw new tiles that are animals and then you have to put them on carts. So it's a little bit sort of like you pick, I choose, or you separate, I choose, but like we all separate together and then choose. So yeah, I'm interested to try it 2-player, and yeah. Number 12 on my list would be Noria by Sophia Wagner, and this is Sophia's first design, and it's pretty involved. So in this game, it's like a cutthroat politics game, where in the game you are activating different like discs that you have to try and like build factories to produce goods, and then you use those goods to build things. But for the most part, you're using those goods to buy political influence on these political tracks. The art of this game is really gorgeous. It's all this like floating sky city, little steampunky, not very steampunky, and it's just really a gorgeous game. The action selection mechanic is what really drew my interest for this game, as there is a wheel, sort of like Tozoken, but you have 3 rings on the wheel, and you put your own action discs that you pick up and purchase throughout the game onto the wheel, and on your turn you pick 3 of these discs on one each from each ring in your wheel, and every wheel will be unique for every player. So in future plays, depending on how you construct and build your own private wheel, will depend on how the game works for you. So yeah, I'm interested in seeing how this works for longevity, and just it's kind of interesting that there's this whole like you can build and do these sky islands and things like that, but you don't really care about doing that aside from political gain. So yeah, I think it'll be an interesting game. Number 11 is Topiary by Devine. This game was published in Italy earlier this year, and I was really bummed about it because I've been watching Danny develop this game on Twitter, and I'm really excited to get it, even if I have to come to Germany to do it. This is a game about planting a garden together with your opponents, and it's all about perspective, which is somewhat similar to photosynthesis, but this game has a different perspective element where, in addition to building the garden together, you have little meeples, which are your visitors. They're your color, and you place them in different areas around the garden, and where they are placed and what they can see is what matters. Whereas in photosynthesis, you have the sun that's moving around that helps grow and give you like the energy to grow your plants, and they're specifically your plants. So in this one, everybody plants the garden together, and the plants aren't owned by anybody, but the meeples that you have are owned by people. So it's a different take on that, and from the component shots that I've seen, it looks like component-wise it'd be pretty easy to pack up and take as a travel game, which interests me, and I think it would still be good 2-player. So yeah, Topiary by Devine. Number 10 on my list would be Come Together by Matt Fantastic. Oh, that's perfect timing, thank you. It's 11:30, if you didn't know. Come Together is a 2-player or more game about finding interesting activities that you want to do together. It is definitely an adult-only game. There are 142 cards, and each card has a fetish or a activity, which is somewhat sexual in nature. And you and the other players will play cards until you play cards that match up twice. So you're trying to play cards that you think your opponent would be interested in doing, and if you succeed in your opponent playing a card that you are interested in and you playing a card that your opponent is interested in, you score a point. When you score 2 points, you stop playing the game and you go do the activities on the cards. So yeah, we don't need that kind of game, but it seems fun and interesting, and yeah, I am excited to try that one. Number 9 on our list would be Montana from Rudger Dorn. Steve and I are really big fans of Rudger Dorn games, and so of course we're excited about this one. This is a worker placement game where you are building up buildings in your settlements, and the first player to finish all of their settlements will trigger the end game, but it's worker placement. The funny thing is to get your workers, there's a spinner. So on your turn you can either get more workers, use those workers, or I think build settlements is the other option. Maybe collect resources. But yeah, so it was kind of Rudger Dorn, insta-buy, because Steve and I tend to really like Rudger Dorn games. I'm not a crazy huge fan of the Montana theme, but it's fine, whatever. Cowboys are cool. This is Farberstrasse, which is apparently the bar street, which is why I'm going to talk to you about Heaven and Ale, which is whatever number I am at now. But Heaven and Ale is a game about building your own little garden, and in this garden you will grow the things that you need to produce beer. But the making beer thing's a little loose. It's basically a resource management game where you're gonna there's a track, and the tracks have actions on them, and then you can move your worker as far around the track as you want, but you can never move backwards. But when you land on a spot, you pick up a thing, you add it to your garden. If you put it on the one side, it will produce resources. If you put it on the other side, it will produce money. And at the end of the game, you figure basically your score is somewhat dependent on your lowest resource. So whatever you have the least of is how much beer you can produce, which is multiplied by wherever your brewmaster is on the board. So it's a game where you really have to balance and make sure all your ingredients are somewhat grouped together. There's things that you can do to mitigate that. But yeah, I tend to like those kind of games, so I'm excited. It's also designed by Michael Kingsley and Andreas Schmidt. So Michael Kingsley and Andreas Schmidt, and it's number 8. There we go. My number 7 is Favelas by Bryan, who, is from Board with Life. I don't know if you're familiar. He also does a really great segment called Board Game News once a week. But this is a tile placement game where you're building the city of Favelas, and each player has their own player board, and there's these double-sized hex tiles that feature the buildings of Favelas, and on your turn you pick up a tile and you place it in your little tableau player board area, but you can never extend the size of the area, so you're building the tiles up, and you get points for placing a tile on a matching it up kind of like domino style. So yeah, it's not really a perspective game, but it does this cool 3D perspective thing, which makes me excited. And then also it just seems like a very thought engaging strategic tile placement game that would be pretty quick. So yeah. Also, I've been watching the developments on this and his design diaries and things like that, and so I'm really excited that I can finally get it, and I'm coming to Germany to get it. Yes! Okay, so not the city of Favelas, Steve has informed me, but it's a type of architecture, and so I'm a horrible researcher. I'm sorry. Number 6 on my list is The Sanctuary Endangered Species, which is designed by Przemek Wojtkowiak. Sorry. In this game, you are building a natural habitat for endangered animals, and you're helping those endangered animals thrive so that they don't go extinct, and maybe they aren't so endangered. But what interests me most about this game is the action selection. So in this game, you have action cards, and you build little stacks of these action cards at the beginning of the game, and every stack of action cards will be 1 round, and the number of rounds depends on the number of players. And at the beginning of the round, you deal out the cards just in a row that's accessible to everyone, and people take turns placing their meeples, which are their workers, on the cards. And the cool thing is on your turn, when it's your turn to activate one of your workers, you activate the card that you're standing on, and then you activate any cards, if you want, the secondary actions of any cards that you can see from where your meeple is standing. There are hedges that will block line of sight, and then other players' meeples will block line of sight. But with this action selection method, depending on how you place, you could end up taking, anywhere from 1 to 6 actions or something like that. So it's a really interesting action selection mechanic, and I'm interested in how it turns out. Also, there's a puppy. Number 5 is 18CV by Leonard Lonnie Orgler, which is an 18xx game, and the reason why I'm interested in this is that Steve and I played an 18xx game recently, but we mostly play games 2-player, and there's not a lot of good 18xx games 2-player, but this one has an automated 3rd player, which makes playing two-player games possible. So we're very interested in giving this a try. If you're not familiar with the 18xx format, basically it's a pretty involved train game where you buy stocks in train companies to take control of the train companies, and then you build tracks that your trains will run on, and then they do movement or delivery or whatnot to earn money, and then the money pays out to the shareholders. And the goal of the 18xx games is to have the most money, and different games have different like mechanics and things like that mixed in, so they're all a little different, but they're all a little the same. This one should be a little more different though, with that third player robot. Number 4 on my list would be Azul by Michael Kiesling. Yes, he's on here twice. This is the closest I could get to Mexican or Portuguese tiles. But in the game, you are building a wall using these tiles that look a lot like starbursts. But it's a game of drafting tiles from a central market and then placing those tiles on a wall in certain orders. And at the end of the game, you can gain negative points throughout the game if you draft incorrectly. So it's a very strategic game. It's not quite sandboxy because of the way the drafting works, and the drafting mechanic is very interesting. So yeah, there's been a lot of buzz and reviews, and there's a great how to play from John, link over there, which you should check out. But yeah, it's our number 4, and we've played it, and we know we like it, so that should say something. I've also pre-ordered it, and I'm gonna get a copy at Essen. Number 3 on our list is Castles of Burgundy, the dice game, designed by Stefan Feld and Christoph Toussaint. And this is the dice game implementation of Castles of Burgundy. Steve and I had a chance to play this with Nicole recently, and we really liked it. It reminds us both of No Siesta, La Granja No Siesta, which we love as a dice game. But this game is basically Castles of Burgundy, but in a more travel-friendly dice game version. And it's a roll and rate technically, but you roll dice and then you select the dice that you want to use on your turn to fill out your castle map, and you still get like the workers and the resources, and you do trading to get silver. And so it feels very much like Castles of Burgundy, just like how No Siesta feels like La Granja, but it's in like a smaller, quicker, more compact, but just as brain birdy package, which makes us very excited, which is why it's our number 3, because we love No Siesta. And we're hoping this is another game of like a similar weight and brain power, and like we'll have a stay in our collection, because the normal Castles of Burgundy just takes a long time to set up, and the dice game has a big table sprawl, and this one is like compact and easy setup, and so we're really, really excited. Number 2 on my list would be Castle Flutterstone Travel Edition, and you probably are wondering why. My oldest niece absolutely loves Castle Flutterstone, and she always wants to play it when I take her to the friendly local game store in Colorado Springs, Peaches Games. It's one of my favorite stores. She wants to play it every time, and we play it, and it's a lot of fun, but her mother would not appreciate so many bats in the house, and so the travel edition is high on my list so I can pick it up and she can play it with her sister at home. So yeah, if you didn't know, Castle Flutterstone is a game where you are trying to get your figure to the top of the castle first, and the way that you advance your figure is you manage to fling bats through windows of the castle. In this travel version, instead of a like catapult, there's a slingshot for the bats, but there's still a hole that you try and get the bats through to try and advance your token to the top. So yeah, it's a silly kids game. It's designed by Guido Hoffman, and it just is cute and travel, and it will go really well with the travel version of the Magic Labyrinth that I got for her and her sister for Christmas. Number 1 on our list is Sunny Day, or Sunny Days, I can't really remember. It's designed by, I should start recording these when I have the notebook open. It's a tile placement abstract strategy game that you can play with kids, but I think it'll be really fun with adults. Sunny Days is designed by Manu Palo. Sorry for butchering, but it's a tile placement game where it's like a little puzzly. Every tile has 4 icons on the side of it, which are broken in half, and you will have a hand of 2 tiles, and on your turn you take one of your 2 tiles and you play them to the grid in the center that exists, And when you match up symbols from your tile to the tiles on the grid, you get the tiles that you're matching with, and then you take them into your own little tableau, and then you build your own little matching tile set thingy in your tableau. At the end of the game, you get points for every tile that you have in front of you on your tableau, and then an extra point for every symbol that you've completed in your tableau. So yeah, it's like a little abstract, fun strategy game. It's really cute, and I think I'm hoping it'll be kind of similar tactically and strategically as King Domino for us. So yeah, that's my number one. A little different this year, but